Analysis on all of this now from Michael Waltz. He's a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, a Green Beret, and author of the book, Warrior Diplomat, a Green Beret's Battles from Washington to Afghanistan. Mike, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks, Brad.
First of all, the impact of this, the significance of it, and what it means for the war overall over there.
Well, I just want to add to your point in terms of the red line that we never enforced. You know, inaction has consequences, tragic consequences. We also knew in 2015, after the Syrians had supposedly gotten rid of, with Russian support, gotten rid of their chemical weapons, that they still had them and that they were still intending to use them, and now we've seen them use them to tragic consequences. You know, one thing I want the viewers to completely understand, because it kind of makes sense. Hey, let's let Assad stay, let's work with them and the Russians, let's all pile on and defeat ISIS. Right next to Assad regime forces, fighting right alongside them, are Russian tanks, planes, armored personnel carrier, our Iranian special forces, and our Hezbollah. When you think Assad, you need to think their close allies who are fighting right on the ground with them. So for us to align with this Assad regime, or even to allow it to stay, is allowing Russia a foothold in the Middle East, is allowing Iranian influence and a base to attack Israel, and it has all kinds of knock-on consequences. So what Assad has been doing and what the Russians have been doing is not attacking ISIS. They are not attacking ISIS. I want to dispute or disabuse everyone of that notion. There was no ISIS fighters in Idlib where this attack just occurred. What they've been doing is actually eliminating the middle ground, and both Assad, Iran, Russia have been eliminating any middle option so that they leave the world with a binary choice: choose me or choose ISIS. Of course, we're not going to choose ISIS, so that leaves him in charge.
Well, I want to talk to you about the policy, the U.S.
Sure.
policy, in just a second. But from a warfighter's perspective, we have people on the ground.
That's right.
Have two groups, actually, and the numbers have increased in recent months, on the ground in Syria. What does this do logistically and from a warfighter's perspective about how to deal with this?
Yeah, and I can tell you from my time embedded with these types of tribes and with these groups, when you're fighting right alongside them and you're trying to earn their trust, and they've had their tribesmen, their family members gassed, attacked, bombed by Assad and Russian aircraft, and now to hear that kind of Assad's okay, makes it pretty tough for our guys on the ground that are trying to fight along these. Right now they're focused on ISIS, but when ISIS is done and defeated, they're going to want to shift to the Assad regime, and we need to figure that out very soon.
But they're going to have to deal with the chemical weapon threat as well.
That's right.
And Mach gear and the whole thing.
No, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Last thing is the U.S. policy. You had Secretary of State Tillerson say that President Assad will be decided by the Syrian people, his determination. Then you had Nikki Haley, the ambassador to the UN. You pick and choose your battles when you're looking at this. It's about changing up priorities. Our priority is no longer to sit there and focus on getting Assad out. Do we think he's a hindrance? Yes. Are we going to sit there and focus on getting him out? No. What we're going to focus on is putting the pressure in there so we can start to make a change in Syria. I guess this message being sent at least 4 days before this attack was, you know, Assad's Assad.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and just 4 days later you have a mass atrocity by the regime. You know, I'm not sure the benefit of publicly and explicitly saying Assad can stay, even if that's, you know, maybe what we think could happen, for those two reasons. You know, one, it's a concession that we could have gotten from the Russians when we do all get to the table. And two, it makes it difficult, you know, as I stated, for our folks on the ground. Look, I think this thing is going to move to the point where both sides get exhausted with fighting before they get to the table, much like we saw in Bosnia, much like we saw in Lebanon. But there's a lot of things that we could do in the meantime. We could still hit those chemical storage sites and his ability to use chemical weapons. Yeah. You know, we could create safe zones to ease the humanitarian crisis that's completely destabilizing Europe and that ISIS is using to infiltrate fighters. And I think we can create a situation where Assad doesn't believe he's winning anymore, and they could come to the table with some type of power-sharing agreement. But I think Assad's going to have to go.
Mike, as always, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brett.